Hey guys, it's Ben and welcome back to episode 78 of your Bukkit plugin tutorials. Today we're going to be looking at generating spheres and, generating spheres in game. So first of all, we're going to make a method. We're going to make a public static list of locations, which is what we're going to return. We're going to return the locations where there's going to be blocks, where the sphere is. I'm going to call this generate sphere. Its parameters, we're going to take the center block, so location center block, the radius of the circle, so int radius, and if it's hollow or not, so boolean hollow. Like that. Import bucket imports location and list. And yeah, cool. So we want to make a list of locations, and we want to call this like circle blocks, and it's going to be a new array list of locations. So we're going to make a new list which is going to hold all of the blocks which are going to be where our circle is. And at the end, we just want to return circle blocks, like before we do anything, just to get rid of these errors. So now we want to sort of start adding stuff into the circle thing. So first of all, we want to get the x, y, and z coordinates of the center block. So int block x equals our center block dot get block x, and then if we just like copy this down, so block x, y, and z, and change this here to y and z, but with capitals. Okay, so now what we have to do is how we loop through a square, which is we go, for int x equals whatever, and then while that is less than whatever, and we do that 3 times with the x, y, and z. We're going to do the exact same thing here. So we're going to type for int x equals our block x, but we want to minus the radius just to make it central. So that's how, that's our starting position. It's the radius to the left of the block. And whilst this is less than or equal to the block x plus the radius, so we want to go again, so it's centered, we're going to increment x by 1, and then expand the cell. So now we just can copy this down, like so, but instead of x and y, x we need y here, so y, and that's less than the block y, and then whilst y is less than the block y plus radius, we're going to say y plus plus, and then finally z is equal to block z minus the radius, and whilst z is less than block z plus the radius, we're going to increment z by 1. So we now want to make the make a double. I'm going to call this distance, and this is an equal. I'm going to type it out first. So this is equal to our block x minus x squared. So again, times by block x minus x. And we want to, I guess, if we just bracket this to make it laid out a bit. So block x minus x. So we're getting our block x, which is where the center block originally was, minus wherever it's been added to. So we're getting that, and then we're taking away an either less or bigger number. So now we're going to square that number. So then we're going to add to that. We're going to add to that our block z minus z, and then that's squared as well. So if we just put this in double brackets, and then we type and we square that, so block z minus z, block z minus z, like so. And then finally we want to add the y, so block y minus y, and then square that, so again block y minus y, like so. And then end this off with a semicolon, format it. So what we're doing here is we're getting our block x. So we're getting, let's get a calculator up. So say our original x was say our x was 10, okay, and we are now at the point where the x value has come to 8, okay. So we're doing 10 minus 8, so we've got 2, and then we're doing 2 times 2, so we have 4. So 4 is going to be, this bit here is going to equal 4. So say now our z was also in the same situation, so we started at 10, and we've now got to 8 on the z. We now got to 12 on the z, and so now we've got negative 4. So we've got 4 plus negative 4. So we've got 0. And then we've got the z finally, the y even, the y, and say the y was, it started at, and it needed to go the same as the radius, so we started 10, and now it's at like, I don't know, 7, so 3. So we end up with, 3. So we now have this number which is 3, and that is the distance from the block squared, from the original block squared that we've now got to, added to each other. Okay, so now we're going to check if the distance is less than the radius squared, so the radius times radius. So if the distance from the center is less than whatever our radius is squared, and then we're going to invert this statement, it's not hollow. So, and it's not hollow, and the distance is less than radius minus 1 squared. So we need to just insert brackets around this. So radius minus 1 times radius minus 1. So what we're saying here is, this is fairly mathsy, so ignore this for now. What we're saying is if the distance is less than the radius squared, and then this bit is saying if it's hollow and the distance is less than radius minus 1 squared. And if it's not hollow and the distance is less than radius minus 1 squared. So you've got to also remember these brackets are here. So what we're saying is if it's hollow and distance is less than radius 1 squared, radius minus 1 squared, this here is one statement. So if this is true, so say if it's hollow, if this is true, we're just inverting it. So if it's not hollow, it's going to not invert it. So if it's not hollow and all of that kind of thing, we're going to get a new location. So we're going to get the location of the block we're at. So new location, and then location, so center block dot get world, and then x, the y, and the z, and then we're going to get the circle, and we're going to the circle block is what I called it, and we're going to add this location. Okay, so it's fairly confusing as to actually try and get your head around it. It's also very hard to explain as to why it works. What it's checking is here is that if it's hollow, then we don't want to care about this. Otherwise, if it is hollow, sorry, if it's hollow and this is happening, then we're going to want to not do anything. Okay, but if it's not hollow and something here is happening, so if the distance is less than the radius 1 squared, then we want to do something. We want to make so if it's hollow, if it's not hollow and this is true, then it's going to add these blocks in. Otherwise, if it isn't hollow, or if it is hollow and this is happening, we don't want to add the filler blocks. This statement here is checking for filler blocks. Okay, and the distance here, so we're getting the distance from the center of all of these blocks of where we're now at, is checking if this distance is less than the radius squared, because we work with, when you're doing circles and stuff, you square things to some extent. It's confusing. All you really need to know is for generating circles, this is a efficient method to use. So then we have this circle blocks.add location. If you want, I will go into more depth into it. If you want, in a separate tutorial, I might post a resource down in the description which might explain this a little better than I have right now, because I'm not very good at explaining mathsy things. So anyway, in our command, we want to make this command. We're going to make a command. So if the sender, why did I do that? If the sender is an instance of a player, we want to then invert that. So if the sender is not an instance of the player, then we're going to send the sender a message saying no. So send message. I'm going to say you must be a player to use this command. Bad console sender, and then return false, so it doesn't do anything else. Then we're going to get the player. So player equals player sender, and the player has to be a sender, because if it isn't a player, then it wouldn't have got through this. Okay. Now we're going to make the int radius. So int radius equals 0, and int hollow equals false. Okay. So first of all, we're going to check if the args.length are not equal to 2, which they have to be, because we have to do slash sphere space, then the radius space, and then if it's hollow or not. Not int hollow, boolean hollow. So if the args are not equal to 2, then we're going to send a player message saying player.sendMessage chat color .red, and then slash sphere, and then radius and hollow, like so. And then obviously return false because they've done it wrong. So we're going to break out the loop. Now we're going to do a couple of try catches. So try catch exception E. So first of all, we're going to try and get the radius. So radius equals integer dot value of args 0. Now, if they've put in like a letter or something here, it's going to go into the catch exception because you can't like get the value of a UTF-8 or a character into a integer. So we're going to then send a player message saying player.sendMessage check color dot red. I'm going to say invalid radius like that, and then obviously we're going to return false because they failed to, you know, learn how to number, and then try and catch again. But instead of this time, we're going to try and say hollow. So hollow equals boolean dot value of args 1, invalid hollow input like so, and then in brackets we'll just put like true / false. There we go. So that is how we get these values. So if either one of these are, you know, wrong, then we want to just fail them because they failed. We also want to now check if our radius is equal to 0. We just kind of want to return false because there's no point making our or if the radius is sort of less than or equal to 2, less than or equal to 1, there's no point putting our method to run this method, which is going to strain our server. It might not even be that little bit, but it's still going to strain the server. You've got hundreds of plugins running just to spawn one block. So you may as well just spawn one block instead of having to loop and stuff. Even though it will be, you know, very quick, we don't want to have to run that on our server. So now finally, we're going to make a for loop, and we're going to say for location L, and then a colon, and generate circle will generate sphere, and the center block is going to be the player's location. So player.get location. The radius is going to be radius, and hollow is going to be hollow, like so. And that is it. Well, no, it's not. So we actually now want to set the block as something. And what I want to do is I want to set it as something that's in the player's hand. So another check I'm going to do up here is I'm first of all going to make an argument. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to make a check. I'm going to say if the player get item in hand. So if the item in hand that they have is nothing, so if they have a null item in hand, or the player get item in hand get type is equal to material.air. So if it's just air in the hand, or and then exclamation mark player.get item in hand get type is block. So if it isn't a block, so if the item in hand is null, if it's air, actually I want to keep it if it's air because then they could set things to air and they can make sort of like air circles. So if the player's item in hand is null or the player's item in hand isn't a block, then we want to send the player a message. I'm going to say player, and let's just copy this here. So player.sendMessage, and then we're going to say invalid item in hand, like so, and then return false. And then here, because we know that item in hand is valid, we can say location.getBlock.setType material.get, not material, player.get item in hand get type, like so. And then finally we can return true at the bottom of our method because everything has happened nicely. Alright, so I guess I'm going to export this. If we look at our plugin.yml, I'm going to change this to sphere. Description can be spawns a sphere. Whoa! Cool. So that's plugin.yml. This is our code. I'm just going to scroll through it one this time. See if you missed anything. You can pause it if you need to look at it. And I'll export this and I'll see you in the game. Right, so I'm in the game. And one last thing, the reason I didn't put a if the command label equals ignore case sphere is because I only have one command. So whenever a command is run, it's always just going to come into here, and I only have one. So in the game, you see if I do /sphere, it's going to say sphere, radius, and hollow and stuff. So I'm just going to come over here. So now if I do if I hold the clay in my hand and I do /sphere, radius of 5, and hollow, I want it to be hollow, it's going to spawn this nice sphere for me, like so. And if I do the same, but instead I put false, I don't want it to be hollow, I want it to be filled. It makes a filled thing, like so. And again, I can do that with other blocks, so I can do that with gold, like so. I can do it with sand, but obviously because of physics, it's just gonna fall and make a weird sphere. Don't even know how that happened. Did it like duplicate the blocks or something? Must have done. That's a bug. Oh no, the terrain. That's why terrain. If I did it here, then it should make a circle. Unless there's still that bug in the game. I thought they fixed that bug a while ago. Yeah, I thought they fixed that bug. Clearly not. Okay, so and then I can do it with air. So if I stand here and do it, sphere, it's gonna make a hole in the ground. Keep tunneling down like so. And then as well as that, I could obviously do a hollow sphere. I don't know why you would do a hollow sphere of air. But you're gonna get stuff like that. It's just gonna look kind of funny. It's gonna be a circle on the ground that kind of goes down a bit like so. So yeah, that's how we make circles. And obviously if I add a wrong thing, so if I put like 5, then it'd be invalid radius. And if I put the right radius here, or I had something, it's gonna not run. I must have not added a oh, I did. Maybe something is valid. I don't know. I must have clearly. Oh no, okay, so in here, instead of doing this try and catch statement, we're going to say if hollow dot equals, so if hollow, if our first arguments equal ignore case true, or, and then copy this and then put it on the other side and change that to false, so we want it to be true or false. Then we're going to do this, otherwise we're going to do that, like so, and then return false, like so. So again, that's our recoded bit of that, so I'm just going to export this and re-put it in. You'll see how that works now. So reload. You'll see now if I do something, it's going to say invalid hollow input, true or false. And if I put true, it's going to make our sphere. If I have rotten flesh, it's going to say invalid item in hand because it's not a block, whereas everything else is. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you've got any questions, comment them down below or send me an email at ben@TheBCBroz.Bukkit.com. Again, if you want me to explain this a bit more in depth, I can obviously do another tutorial on that. But yeah, again, BCBrozBukkit.com, contact me forum, or ben@TheBCBroz.Bukkit.com to get directly in contact with me and ask me questions. Comment section's always good. People are always responding in there, which is nice to see. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.